Hi, and welcome to OTel Bytes. My name is Jess. In the first episode, we covered how to get our demo application up and running. So if you haven't already seen that, please go back and check the first video. In our last episode, we covered automatic instrumentation and we paid specific attention to the concept of traces. Our focus for this episode is going to be on getting started with custom traces and Python. So in the last episode, we talked through the difference between manual and automatic instrumentation. For this episode, we're going to dive a little bit more into manual instrumentation. So we're going to use the same recommendation server Python file that we looked at last time, and we're going to walk through kind of all of the places where manual instrumentation has been implemented. And what's really cool about manual instrumentation is it allows you to have kind of a more granular approach. It lets you customize different spans, different things, and allows you to kind of really pinpoint what you need. And so this can be really helpful for working with a robust, complicated code base because it allows you to kind of drill into what you might need. Let's talk through the recommendation server file. So on line 135, we could see this tracer equals trace get tracer provider dot get tracer service name. And so you might be wondering, what does this do? This initializes a tracer object from the OpenTelemetry tracer provider. And this tracer is used throughout the code to create spans for tracking application logic. And this is needed because it creates the foundation for manual instrumentation in OpenTelemetry. Without a tracer, you cannot create custom spans. So on line 70, you will see where it says tracer start as current span, get product list as span. And what this does is it starts a new span called get product list. And this span will track the execution of the get product list function. And from there, what you can see here is that the span is active for the duration of the with block. And you can also create child spans if needed under the span. And this is useful because by naming the span after the function, you can easily identify where time is spent in the function and capture meaningful metadata. So the next thing I want to talk about was setting attributes on spans. So if we see here where it says span.set attribute app.catchIt false, what we can see here is that this adds metadata attributes to the active span. And these attributes describe specific aspects of the application's state during this span's execution. So where it says app.catch hit, this shows whether the cache was used successfully. There might be a couple of others that you'll see, like app.recommendation.catch enabled, which indicates whether a cache feature is active, or you might also see app.products.count, which logs the total number of products processed. And this is useful because attributes provide that contextual data for debugging or performance analysis, and they can kind of help us understand what happened during the span. And so by adding these attributes, you can kind of have a little bit more context as to what is happening. So thinking about customization a bit more, since you are using manual instrumentation for this example, you can also actually add on something called span events, which capture significant milestones during execution. Additionally, you can add on some things that aren't quite related to traces, as well as manual metrics, which would track the performance and usage statistics. And this is actually already in the file, as well as some feature flag integration. Another thing that's also here, if you see where it says check feature flag, that actually annotates traces with feature flag data to understand the feature impact And then you can also, when you do send it to Elastic, you can actually correlate the logs with traces, just to get some more information. And one thing that you might want to consider as well is automatic instrumentation. So as we mentioned previously, automatic instrumentation provides all of that tracing for you. So it reduces that manual effort. But you can also do things like, combining manual um, traces with automatic instrumentation. So you can actually kind of customize your spans a bit more. You do have some things that you can do there to kind of make it a little bit more robust. And that's something that you might want to consider. Um, so you can always like adjust your code to include custom spans alongside automatic instrumentation. And this approach would leverage automatic instrumentation for common frameworks and libraries, but it's still allowing you to have that kind of granular custom spans for specific parts of the code where you might want to get a little bit more in depth. So I want to actually finally, before concluding, show you what this sort of manual instrumentation looks like inside of Elastic. So if we go to where it says observability and overview, and then from here, if we go to where it says services, we'll see a list of services. And if we click under where it says recommendation services, here we can kind of see everything that we kind of set up as part of the manual instrumentation process. So if we go into where it says transactions, we can actually start to see some of what we defined previously inside of Elastic. So I wanted to kind of show you what this looks like inside of Elastic, just to kind of give you a full picture of what this looks like when you're running an application. Thank you so much for tuning in today. In our next episode, we're going to be diving into